All right. So welcome everyone, and thank you for attending the benefits of becoming IDOT DBE certified, how to apply, and we'll briefly discuss the work categories, but that probably won't fully get covered today. It is August 15th, 2024, and I am in a cloudy central Illinois, and I'm just happy to be here as well. Let me add another person in the room. All right. So again, thanks for attending this workshop. We'll go over all of this wonderful content today to let you know how to get your business DBE certified, and also for you to have content and information that you can share with others that may be interested in the program. As I mentioned prior, I know some of you joined newly. The call is being recorded. If you'd like to put your company name and your city and location in the chat, please do so so that we can have that information. We will allow time for Q&A, so feel free to put your questions in the chat as well. And myself and Theo will be monitoring that to pause and answer those. The call will be publicly published on the IDOT YouTube channel. So if there are questions that you have that you don't want publicly shared, please wait till we stop the recording or private message those to us, and we will cover those offline. So my name is Melissa Hamilton. I am the owner of Synergetic Solutions, Inc., and I've had the pleasure to work with the Illinois Department of Transportation and their Supportive Services Department as a consultant assisting with the certification and management services through this program. So it's been a great pleasure. Theo Joyner is also on the call. He is with Ralph G. Moore and Associates, and he has been on assisting with this program even longer than I. He's in our districts 1 through 3 area and providing supportive service as well. Theo, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
Anything I left off that you'd like to share?
No, I think you did a great job.
Thank you, Theo. So just a couple of housekeeping items we have here. If you don't mind, keep your lines on mute. So that way we don't have any audio issues, and your video off so that we can make sure that we have great connection issues. If you do have questions, you can either put them in the QA or put them in the chat. I currently don't have my QA open. The chat is open, but I will double check that too as we take our breaks. Again, the session is going to be recorded. All of the resources, forms, and presentation will be emailed to you after the call is over and we've got the video published for you to rewatch the video. So that will come to you either later today or before the end of this week. And then there is a short survey at the end of the presentation. If you please participate in that survey, we always want to know how we can improve as we're creating different workshops and presenting. So please do that. So today what we're going to cover again is the benefits of becoming IDOT certified. So there are that will cover how to complete the certification application. I'll probably skim over the work categories for now. We'll open up for Q&A and have some closing remarks in the evaluation. So the benefits of being IDOT certified. I also do want to say that there are we do have IDOT staff on the call as well. So Brian and Anna, if you want to come off mute and introduce yourselves as well. Brian, I've got a slide as well to introduce you, but feel free to go ahead and do that as well. I don't want to leave you guys out.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Melissa. My name is Brian Hendricks. I am the Policy and Supportive Services Unit Manager for the Illinois Department of Transportation. We oversee supportive services to IDOT certified DBEs, and we hope that those of you who are seeking certification will be one of those certified DBEs very soon. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Ramirez. I am the Supportive Services Project Manager for Small Business Enterprises. Welcome.
Perfect. And I saw Mark. Is that Mark Vaughn or is that a different Mark?
That is Mark Vaughn. I'm with FV Consulting, and I do the certification services for districts 7, 8, and 9.
Thanks for joining, Mark. And LaShonda's also on. She's a sub-consultant. LaShonda, would you like to say hello as well?
Yes, good morning, everyone. LaShonda Fitch with Connect the Dots Consulting. I am working under Melissa Hamilton for Districts 4 through 6.
All right. Well, thank you all, team. We have a wonderful team on here. So everyone is here and available to support you. And as I go through the presentation, you will see the various services that we're able to provide to you. So let's start with IDOT's goals. IDOT's goal is to provide assistance to DBE firms and individuals interested in doing business with the department in ways that ensures equity, access, and transparency. IDOT, in accordance with federal guidelines, strives to facilitate and implement programs that can help current and future business partners open the door to doing business with IDOT. The department works towards this goal in a variety of ways, most notably through the tools available at our resource centers, the supportive services program that is executed through our partnerships with consultants who provide management and technical supportive service assistance, and corresponding supportive service programs that fall under the umbrella supportive service programs. This support is provided at no charge to IDOT DBE firms, to firms that are seeking IDOT DBE certification, to Illinois UCP DBE certified firms who have an IDOT contract, and to prime contracts doing business with IDOT. So many of you fit the DBE seeking certification on the call here. So you'd be eligible for those services as well. I mentioned that the program is operated by Brian Hendricks. He's the Policy and Supportive Service Unit Manager. His email is in the chat, and it's also on the screen with his wonderful picture. So thank you, Brian, again for being on the call. All right, why should we pursue DBE certification with IDOT? Basically, there's three core reasons. It'll help expand your expertise. It will help network with other established businesses, and it will make a lasting investment in your community. We have a company, Taylor Electric, that started in the program as a DBE firm. They were a business that was around for nearly 100 years, and they started in that DBE program as a certified firm, and now they serve as a prime on contracts with IDOT. One of the statements that they made is, we're confident that IDOT's given us the tools to branch out profitably. Every aspect of IDOT's DBE program is designed to bring diverse businesses to the table and position them to shine. That was from Kendra Dinkins, who's the president and CEO of Taylor Electric Company. So, over the years, again, they've been doing lots of business with the Illinois Department of Transportation, and two probably came in as a smaller company looking to work on contracts, and through the services that we're able to support and help with, have been able to grow and expand their business. So we hope that for you as well. So IDOT opportunities. Every day, IDOT strives to design and maintain a world-class transportation system that enhances safety and the quality of life of its citizens and visitors by reducing congestion and increasing mobility. IDOT's talented professionals and diverse group of public servants understand the importance of innovation, diligence, hard work, and collaboration. We welcome you to learn about us, but more importantly, partner with us as we transform transportation for tomorrow. So on the screen, you'll see that there are projects and budgets that IDOT has set for work that will be done in Illinois between 2025 and 2023. With the highway and multimodal improvement program that they have, they're investing over $41.42 billion in improvements on our highways, in our Marines, our Aerosmith, all of those areas. If you look over to the right bottom corner of the screen, you'll see that there is a diagram, a graph that's showing how much will be spent in the various areas, and there'll be about 29.65 billion spent alone in just the highway, on the highway areas. The budget for 2025 is proposed at $5.3 billion, and with the Federal Highway Administration, the FHWA is what we may refer to it as, there is a 20.27% goal for DBE firms between the years of 2025 and 2027 on those contracts. So the main thing to gain from this is that there are opportunities at IDOT to gain some of that money that is being put on the table for these improvements. IDOT works with businesses just like ours in order to improve our roadways and provide those services. So let's grab it. learn and grow with supportive services. So while opportunities may increase for certified DBEs, it's not guaranteed though. So we offer free programs and resources to our firms to help you learn and grow through all phases of the business. So today, obviously, we're talking about certification and how we can support you and assist you with filling out the certification application. But once you have become a certified DBE with IDOT, we provide developmental skills and management skills and training to you as well that's available. We help you navigate your operational expenses. We help you connect with established firms, discover best practices for successfully working with IDOT. So the resources and resource centers can be found on IDOT's website. If you go to IDOT.Illinois or IDOT.illinois.gov, the resource centers are available there for you to access. I also wanted to mention too that IDOT has recently updated their website. They've been making quite a few improvements to their website. And on that homepage, the multimodal that I just covered regarding the spending, they have a full document broken out by district of where some of those funds will be spent in those projects. So feel free to visit the IDOT website and check out their improvement program for 2025 through 2023 or 2030 as well. Sorry. But going back to the resource centers, there's also a QR code on the screen that you're welcome to scan as well. IDOT has 9 districts where we offer resource centers that have equipment and resources available for our businesses. So as you're working through your certification, if you need assistance with a computer to complete your application or make copies of maybe your tax returns, you are able to reach out to those resources free of charge to complete that part of the application. You will need to schedule appointments with some of those locations. So please make sure you scan, look for the resource center that's closest to you. You can also reach out to us as supportive services and we can assist on that as well. Once you are a certified IDOT DBE, you can also use those resource centers to look at the bids that are out, look at the plans that are available, and have additional resources so that you don't have any barriers to entry bidding on contracts. So you can look up, use the computer to look up everything and the equipment to put together your bids and your procurements as well. We have contract compliance officers as well. Contract compliance officers are accountable for EEO and labor compliance on state and federal funded projects. They ensure contract compliance with state, federal laws and regulations governing the EEO and labor compliance and DBE programs. There are compliance officers across our district, and they can be found on the website as well. Once you pull it up, there's a search box in the upper right corner of the website. I'm pretty sure that's still there. And you can just search contract compliance officers and a list will pull up for you to identify your local compliance officer if you do have questions as it relates to the contracts bidding and any laws and regulations. So technical and management assistance. As I mentioned, we have consultants available for with IDOT that provide supportive services. And we do that in 2 ways, one on the management side and one on technical side. So once you become an IDOT certified firm, these services are available to you at no charge. So you can see on the screen, we can provide assistance to help you with actually estimating and bidding on contracts, help you with equipment and resources, project site inspections that might be coming up, helping you get your pre-qualification, helping you with your bookkeeping systems, and if you need assistance with credit restoration, your bonding and insurance, helping you work through your business plans and strategic plans, and also helping you with marketing. So for example, capability statements are something that are very important when doing business with the government, and we can help you create and design that once you get certified. So again, those services are available at no charge. I think the agency does a wonderful job of allowing us to provide support to our firms in the area to ensure that you are successful. So when you look at the district currently, it's broken out into 9 different districts. So over to the right, you'll see districts 1 through 9. If you are an out-of-state company, your business is actually registered out of the state, then we consider you District 10. But you are eligible to be certified through IDOT as well. You must first certify in your home state. And then you would apply for essentially a reciprocal certification for Illinois. So we will walk through that when we talk about the application as well. But if you don't, obviously you're not going to see yourself on the map, but you would be considered our District 10 for the or out of state. And then over to the left are the 3 areas of supportive services that are provided. So right now, the majority of you on the call would be looking for certification assistance. So the first area, districts 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and 7 through 9, list Theo, myself, and Mark and our contact information to reach out to us. We will actually help you through completing the application. So if you need assistance after we go through this workshop, make sure you grab these numbers. I'll also send a flyer out as a follow-up email, and it'll also be in the recording for you to get as well. But we'll be happy to assist you with your application. And then once you become an IDOT DBE certified firm, those are the 2 areas for technical and management services for our consultants that help out in those particular areas once certified. Workshops and events. So throughout the year, IDOT does a great job of putting on workshops and various events. As you can see, this is one of the workshops that they are hosting currently. So we have various workshops that are designed to help provide you with skills to become more competitive on IDOT projects. Also helping your individuals and businesses work with IDOTs and form strategic partnerships. So a lot of prime companies are attending these events and these meetings, as well as IDOT staff, for you to learn more about what's happening within the marketplace. And then we also help encourage sharing the best practices, policies, and procedure changes. With law and government, as you know, there's always policies and procedures that are changing, and sometimes it's very difficult to stay on top of what's changing. So by having these events and these workshops, we're able to keep you informed as well. IDOT does have a year-round event as well that we'll talk about. And we also host different events within the districts for you to attend. On the slide there, you'll see a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/DBE workshops. If one of our team members can put that in the chat, that'd be great. Please click that link and you'll also be able to register and follow. So when new events are occurring, they will appear in our Eventbrite, and you'll be able to stay abreast of what's happening for our workshops and events. Those are always free. And whether you are certified or not, you are able to attend those meetings and events as well. So I mentioned TCTR. This is one of my favorite events that IDOT has. It's held annually. TCTR stands for Today's Challenge, Tomorrow's Reward. And it is a conference that's providing opportunity for networking, skill building, networking with the vendors, and just knowledge sharing. There's tons of primes there. IDOT staff attend, subcontractors, consultants, and suppliers. It's over 2 days typically with breakout sessions, great food and meals, big networking event. So that's going to be held this February on the 26th and 27th. So please put in your calendar to save the date. The event's going to be held at the Crown Plaza here in Springfield. So also put that in your save the date in your calendar and block that out, because you don't want to miss out on that. This was one of the first events that I attended when I started entering into state government. And as you see now, I'm now assisting in supportive services. So I was able to network with other prime contractors that were there, and it's been pretty resourceful for me attending that just as on my own. And I know other businesses have also benefited from being at TCTR. So please put that on your calendar and make sure that you attend the event, and we will follow up with you with the registration information once that is out and available. One of the things at TCTR we also have had in the past, the awards and recognition. So these were the categories in the past. Over on the left that you'll see, they're going to change slightly for the upcoming year. We will have an option for you to nominate a firm. If you do know of firms working in this space that would make a great nominee for the categories that we're going to have available. But as you see over the right, Ron Brown was one of the consultants that won the award last year. He had previously been working with IDOT as an employee for many years, retired, and then became a consultant through the company. So he was the recipient of the Roberto Award last year. And yeah, so those are the different recognition awards that happen at TCTR. This year, the categories are going to be construction/trucking DBE of the year, architect/engineer DBE of the year, supplier/professional service DBE of the year. We'll have a prime of primes and then the Roberto Award as well. So as I mentioned, nominations will open soon, and we'll share that link for you to nominate a firm if you know of one that's doing great work within transportation in those categories. So programming, once you become certified, this is why certifying with IDOT is very beneficial, because there are so many resources that are available to us once we certify through the program. You can become DBE certified through other agencies and methods outside of IDOT, but I am a little bit biased because obviously I've been certified through IDOT. So some of the programs that we have available are the DBE reimbursement program. So once you complete your certification through IDOT, IDOT will offer 50% reimbursement to qualified firms in selected categories while funds are available. So there are various categories that you can get reimbursement for things that you're already paying for, like your association and organization membership costs, some of the training or additional certification that you're needing to improve your work categories or your skills, and then even like websites, capability statements, and logo design. Accounting software is another big one that's not on here, but if funds are available, they are based on funds being available, you can apply and get 50% reimbursement up to various maxes for that program. We also have our business development program. We call it the BDP program. There's lots of acronyms in this business, but it's basically a program where we allow 15 firms to be accepted into the program on an annual basis. And with that, they're able to get support with their full business evaluation and analysis. Tailored training will be provided to them that's eligible for reimbursement to grow the company, and then personalized recommendations to help them maintain competitive in the market. So it's basically a accelerated education program to support them in their specific needs and to accelerate them through doing work with the department. So soon we will have applications available. The program's being revamped a little bit right now to make it more robust. But once that is available and you are a certified IDOT firm, please submit your application for that program. We also have mobilization payments, and basically what this program was set up to do is to help our subcontractors with starting on the work or starting work on the job. So sometimes advanced funds and capital to begin the project, it can be a challenge, and this was designed to help prevent that or help sustain that, I guess, or supplement. That's probably the better word, to help supplement that. So when you have a contract and you've been awarded, you can see on the graph, depending on the amount of that award, you can get a advance payment 7 days prior to the start of that job to help you begin work. So whether that's getting the equipment there, getting your staff set up to be on the job to do the work, there's various uses of those funds, but those would be the percentages that you would be able to have available to you prior to the contract actually starting to help you get started. We also have the HCCTP program, and it's a program that allows skilled training for individuals who are looking to work in the trades. So there's a list of the different types of trade and lifestyle skills that a applicant can be considered for. These universities or this program is set up in colleges across our state in various areas. So students that are interested or individuals who are interested can apply for this program. Once they're in the program, they'll be fully trained. They will be great, diverse talent and available for you to essentially hire in your business to work on projects. There will be some reimbursement opportunity for companies who are interested in hiring an individual who's graduated from the HCCTP program. And the program is no charge for individuals to participate. They just have to apply. They need to be 18 years or older, have a high school diploma or a GED, a valid driver's license, and they are required to pass a drug test. So if you do know any individual who's interested in getting in the trades, this is an area where we definitely need more people, and definitely need more people who are minorities and women in this marketplace. So if you do know of someone who maybe they're not on the traditional college track and they're looking for something different, please share the HCCTP program with them, so that they can expand their skills and hopefully be working on IDOT projects soon. So I'm going to pause. Those were the benefits of going through the certification program with IDOT and being certified. Theo, do we have any questions? I don't see any on my end, but just confirm if there's any in the chat so far.
No questions thus far.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, we will continue on. So next is eligibility. So you're all here to learn about becoming certified. So let's first talk about the eligibility for the program. We'll cover these three sections and areas. So one thing is, what is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program? The Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE program, is administered by the Illinois Department of Transportation. It's a federally mandated program that provides disadvantaged businesses an opportunity to participate in transportation contracts that utilize federal funds. Beyond certification, IDOT fosters opportunities for DBE firms and individuals interested in doing business with the agency to learn, grow, and network through available supportive services. Construction or professional service firms looking to build their business and maintain a competitive edge are encouraged to conduct business with IDOT as a DBE, or as a certified DBE. The Illinois Unified Certification Program members to administrate the DBE program. So these are different, as I mentioned, there's different agencies that you can go to actually get certified. IDOT is one of them, but our other participating agencies are City of Chicago, Chicago Transit Authority, Metra, and PACE. So the purpose of the Illinois UCP is to provide a one-stop shop certification process for firms seeking DBE certification in the state of Illinois. Firms certified in one participating area are certified with all of the agencies. So if you decide to go to City of Chicago or PACE or Metra to submit your certification application, that's perfectly fine. You're absolutely able to do so. You will be put into the Illinois UCP directory, and you will be certified to do work on any project that has that DBE goal within the transportation realm. The difference is when I mentioned before that prior slide that mentioned the supportive services and technical assistance and reimbursement, those will vary depending on where you've certified from and if you're working on IDOT projects and work. So that's something to keep in mind. The definition of disadvantaged enterprise, this came from the government, the transportation government site. DBEs are for-profit small business concerns where socially and economically disadvantaged individuals own at least a 51% interest and also control, manage the daily business operations. So you need to be 51% owner and also control and manage the daily operations of the business. As far as eligibility, in general, to be eligible for the program, a person must own 51% or more of a small business, established that they are socially and economically disadvantaged within the means of DOT regulations, and provide they control their business. The following general guidelines, taken in part from the applicable regulation 49 CFR Part 26. So I have a link for that if you want to look at the regulations in this presentation as well. Will help business owners determine whether they are eligible for the program. So there's a couple components on this slide that's looking at eligibility. One being the percentage of ownership, one confirming the social and economic disadvantage, one being a small business, and then the fact that you're controlling your company and in full control. So we'll break that down a little bit further here. As it relates to ownership, the firm is at least 51% owned and controlled by a socially and economically disadvantaged individual who is a U.S. citizen or lawfully admitted permanent U.S. resident. The term disadvantaged is you may be eligible if you are a member of a group of persons that the department has considered as disadvantaged. The department presumes certain groups are disadvantaged, including women, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, subcontinent Asian Pacific Americans, and other minorities found to be disadvantaged by the U.S. Small Business Administration. Persons who are not members of one of the above groups and own and control their business may also be eligible if they establish their social and economic disadvantage. The department notes, for example, that people with disabilities have disproportionately low incomes and high rates of unemployment, and they may be socially and economically disadvantaged. So the presumed groups are all of those ones that I've named. However, the term is socially and economically disadvantaged. And if you can prove that in other ways, you would be able to be considered for certification eligibility. So again, those are done on a case-by-case basis. You can read further in the guidance of that 26.5 49 CFR Part 26 on the proof of burden. So you have to prove that you are a disadvantage for the program, or you meet those eligibility requirements. Is probably a better way. At the top, I have a web link to the transportation.gov site that talks about the DBE size standards. So we mentioned that you need to be a small business. So business size determination is based on a couple things. So one, the firm, including its affiliates, must be a small business as defined by SBA standards. It must not have annual gross receipts in excess of the DBE ACBDE size limits over the firm's 5 previous fiscal years. So in this slide here, I do have just a general amount of those caps, but if you go to the DBE size standard website that's at the top of the screen, it's broken down further too by type of business code and category. There's a spreadsheet in there as well. So the general or more, I guess, goodness, my brain just went dead. The standard size that most businesses fit with under are on this side here. So firms must meet both SBA and the DBE statutory cap. For the SBA size standards, you can visit that link that's in the slide here, but the DBE statutory cap has just been changed to 30.72 million. So your business cannot exceed that in revenue over the 5 years. And if you're in the ABCDE program, the size standard is increased at 56.42 million. So that would be the size standard for your business that you want to stay under in order to be eligible. The personal net worth, only the disadvantaged person having a personal net worth of less than $2 million, $2,047,000 can be considered as potentially a qualified DBE. The items excluded from a personal net worth calculation do include the individual's ownership interest in the applicant firm, equity in your primary residence, your retirement assets, and it removes your state marital laws and community property rules from the calculation. So we'll review the personal net worth form today as well, but as long as you're under $2,047,000, you would be considered as a disadvantaged person. US DOT will regularly adjust the personal net worth cap in the future without rulemaking using the Federal Reserve data. So as of today, that's that number that you want to stay under, and it does exclude quite a few things. The retirement assets is something that was recently added to be excluded, and that has helped quite a few firms as well. Eligibility guideline overview: independence. The business must not be tied to another firm in such a way as to compromise its independence and control. So they do want to ensure that this is your own sole independent business and that you are in control. Control is a disadvantaged owner seeking certification must possess the power to direct or cause the direction of the management and policies of the firm. The owner must also have an overall understanding of and managerial and technical competence and experience directly related to the type of business in which the firm is engaging. And the proof of burden or the burden of proof allocation, applicants carry the initial burden of proof regarding their eligibility and must demonstrate that they meet all requirements concerning group membership or individual disadvantaged business size, ownership, and control. So part of that's going to come in when you're submitting your application. and you're putting your information into the application and having your on-site interview, it's your burden of proof to show that you have met all the requirements within the program. So you want to be very thorough in your response. References. It is the applicant firm's responsibility to provide sufficient evidence to demonstrate that more likely than not, it meets all eligibility requirements. If you want to look at those requirements, you can visit www.ecfr.gov. The reference codes are listed here. So when you pull up that document, search the reference or the regulation code there, and that will help you get to the part where it's discussing more in depth the social and economic disadvantage portion, and then also the ownership and meeting the control of that as well. If you're unsure, obviously you can connect with us at Supportive Services, and we'll look over the basics and confirm and help you identify whether you are eligible for the program. So how to apply. Firms applying for certification in their home state. So the home state is the state in which your firm maintains its principal place of business. You would need to complete the uniformed certification application. You'll need to provide all documents within the checklist. You'll need to include the DBE ACBE personal net worth statement. So don't ask your accountant to provide a document. You must use the one provided within the application. And then participate in an on-site interview with the certifying agency. The forms can be found on the IDOT website. I also will be sending all of those to all of you at the end of this call as well, so you have them. If your firm is already certified in your home state and is interested in interstate certification, contact the state agency and supportive services for interstate certification instructions. So those of you that I mentioned would be considered District 10 because you're out of state here. You would complete this application. You would make sure you get certified in your home state first. A lot of the information that's being collected is pertinent in both. So if you're not yet certified in your home state, hang on and look through the application. A lot of this will be transferable to other states, but you will want to complete their application first, become certified, and then get interstate certification here in Illinois. How long for approval? It'll take about 90 days after your completed application has been provided to the agency to be certified. And again, I want to definitely make sure I highlight completed application. So that doesn't mean the day you think you've completed it and you turned it in. That's the date that the agency receives it and has confirmed that all requested documentation has been provided for them to evaluate and make the decision in your business. So if they do reach out to you and say, hey, I'm missing 1 year of your taxes, or you didn't provide your equipment list, or we're missing an insurance card, please be prompt in responding back so that they have every document that they need to move you through the certification process for approval or denial or just a decision. How long does certification last? So a firm that has been certified is certified for life unless there's an adverse decision is rendered to remove the firm's eligibility, and a declaration of eligibility is required on an annual basis. So once you do this, you've done it. The only changes that would occur is if maybe your personal net worth changes, you're no longer considered a small business, your business changes in control, maybe you've sold it or you're no longer 51% disadvantaged. Those could adjust your eligibility. And if those ever happen, you need to notify the agency as soon as those changes are being made. Otherwise, if nothing is changing, you're just required to complete the declaration of eligibility, which I'll show you that it's a simple one-page form that has to get sent in annually. Oh, actually, I have it on this slide. So that's the declaration of eligibility right there. So as you can see, pretty simple. You fill that out, make sure that you get it signed, dated, and sent back in on an annual basis. So should you apply? You may apply to participate in the DBE ACDBE program if your firm is for-profit that performs or seeks to perform transportation-related work at the airport, concession activities, for a recipient of the Federal Aviation Administration, the Federal Highway Administration, or Federal Transit Administration funds. And then you meet the program eligibility requirements. So if those are true, then yes, we encourage you to apply. So the application is 15 pages, I believe 17. I think it's 17 pages with the instructions. So we're going to skip the instruction page and go right into filling out the application. Before we get into the weeds of this, I'm just going to pause and see were there any questions in regards to eligibility for the program at all. I don't see any. I think we're good. Okay, well, let's dig into the application. So the application, the first page, the upper part is going to be basic contact information. I encourage you to always fill in all areas of the application because the agency would not know whether or not, or the analyst would not know if you just forgot to answer one of those lines or if it's not applicable to you. So if there's something that you do not have or it's not applicable, make sure you put NA in the field so that they are aware that you did see that part. It's just something that doesn't apply to your particular firm. So on the first page, the basic contact information is here. Obviously, the first question is asking whether you're applying for just DBE certification or if you do want consideration for AC DBE, which is the Airport Concessions DBE program. So working at the airport. As you can see, it's asking for like fax number and so forth. If you don't have those, just put NA in those sections and fill out the basic information about your company. The next part, it's going to ask whether or not you've ever applied for certification or been denied certification in any other certification program. So if you've ever applied at any other, for DBE, the 8A program, any of those programs, BEP program, if you've ever applied and been certified or not, they want to know what were the outcomes of that. And if you've ever been suspended from one of those programs. So maybe you were a part of them at one time and for some reason you got disbarred or your certification was withdrawn, then that information is this section here. Next section would be the concise general description of your business. What are the products and services that you provide? Where do you provide those? So just a short description or your elevator pitch essentially of what you do for your business. Number 2 on here is the NAICS codes. So NAICS codes are your industry work codes. So the type of business that you have, so let's say you're a plumber, there's going to be a code associated with that particular work category. So this form has various lines here that you can enter the different NAICS codes. So you may have more than one. If you've never figured out what your NAICS code is, this is the website you can go to, census.gov/NAICS. This is the Northern American Industry Classification System. Once you're there, over to the left, you'll see a little search box here. You're going to want to put in the service that you provide to find that NAICS code. I usually tell people to be more general than super specific so that you can ensure that, the list comes back and you're looking at all of the different types of codes available. So for example, for trucking, there's, long distance, there's local trucking, there's the hauling and gravel trucking versus freight and so forth. So make sure you, put a general description in and the different services that you're providing and making sure that you're getting those codes. There might be one for landscaping, one for excavating. So just look through those and make sure you have those listed. And that's what's going to go in this line 2 here. The next question is this firm was established on, so you're going to want to make sure that the date that you enter here is the date that matches the documentation when you established or created your business. There are quite a few firms that I've worked with before that we've looked up that date through the Secretary of State's site, and it's shown that they didn't renew their corporate certification or their corporate annual report. So it says that their business isn't existing at the moment. So make sure, one, you are active still and you've submitted all of the things that you need to the Secretary of State to keep your business in good standing. And then the date that's on that document is the date that you're going to want to put when the firm was first established. If the company is a for-profit business, you're going to mark yes, and then put your tax identification number in this section. I do encourage firms to make sure that they do get a federal tax ID number versus using your Social Security number. That's just great practices for businesses in general, and it doesn't take long to get one. If you don't have one currently, please, get one. And then if you are a nonprofit or a not-for-profit company, you cannot apply. You're not eligible for the program. The program is for for-profit companies only. Next section is going to ask about the legal business structure. So check all that apply. So depending on how your company is certified or registered, that's what you'll fill in here. The number of employees gets listed here. So how many full-time employees, part-time employees, seasonal, and total. One area in this section here that business owners sometimes forget to include themselves in that count and that number. So you know, even though you own the company, you also are working at your company too. So make sure you include yourself in whichever category you fit in for this section as well. The next part is your gross receipts for the last 5 years. So they want the federal tax returns for the business for the past 5 years, in addition to any of the affiliate gross receipts accounted for as well in these sections here. So I typically tell businesses to list out the 5 years based on where we're starting. So right now, obviously 2024, and then we would go back 5 years here. If your business was not established in one of those years, so let's say you started your business in 2024, you wouldn't have the 5 years because you weren't in business. Still list those years on the application, and then in those sections for the amounts, put NA because you were not in business during those times. And then for the years that you were, list those amounts. That way you don't submit this in and they happen to glance at it and see it's not completed. One would assume they look at the date your business was certified and they know, oh yeah, that's right. But you want them to be able to get through your application as quick as possible. So not to have to go back and look and check, just have it marked and filled in. Don't leave it blank. So enter in the NAs or zeros in the applicable areas there. And then, as I mentioned, you will need to provide the federal returns for those years as well. So make sure you have copies of that to provide with all of the schedules. You do not need your state return, just your federal, but you do need all the schedules included when you submit the copies. Next section is relationship and dealings with other businesses. So is your firm co-located at any of its business locations, or does it share a telephone number, PO box, office, or storage space, yard, warehouse, facilities, equipment, inventory, financing, office staff, and or employees within any other business, organization, or entity? Yes or no? So that says with any other business, organization, or entity. So if you have, you know, let's say you own your company and you're working part-time somewhere else, you're the owner, you're an employee, you're working at your company, you're also working somewhere else. That has to be disclosed. Let's say you operate your business from your home and your significant other is also maybe operating the business from the home. You guys are sharing that home location that you're utilizing for your two businesses. That would be listed and need to be disclosed. So really think about this question because a lot of times I have had businesses that I've supported and they've marked no. And then as we're talking, it's an absolute yes. And it's not a big deal or denial of certification, but you have to disclose how those relationships are established and set up. So definitely read this question slowly and a couple times and think through each of these components. If there are anything that's being shared, make sure it's being disclosed and marked here in this section and described. If you need to attach an additional sheet of paper, because maybe there's a lot, that's fine as well, but make sure that you do fully disclose. The bottom half is going to ask if the firm has had ownership interest in your firm, if there's been another firm that has had ownership interest in your firm at any time in the past. So if no, mark no. And then they're going to ask additional questions about at present or at any time in the past, has your firm ever existed under different ownership, had any subsidiaries, existed as a partnership and one or more of the partners are or were at other firms, owned any percentage of any other firm, have any subsidiaries, or this one too, also pay attention to, it says served as a subcontractor for another firm consulting more than 25% of your firm's receipts. So I've had businesses who may have just started and they're a new company and they only have one client thus far and they're subcontracting. So that one bill is 100% of your revenue at that time. So then in this case, the answer would be yes. Yes. So there's a question in the chat that asks if you have a full-time day job outside of your personal business, do you disclose that information? Yes, because you are an employee or owner of the company that also is being shared by another business. So when we get into the control section, it's going to ask some additional questions about the owner, about the board of directors, and that also will be listed there. And thank you for that question too, because it also reminds me that some of these questions are going to feel like they're duplicated So you're going to put it in one spot and you're going to be like, I feel like I just put the same answer in 12 different spots on the application. Keep in mind that the questions that are being asked in the application are for different viewpoints, right? So you might be the owner of your business, but you also might be the on the board of director, and you might also be on the executive committee. So when it's asking, some companies, those are different positions and different roles, and that's the person they're asking about. But if you're filling multiple roles within your business, it's you. And so you're answering the same question about yourself because, again, they're looking at it from different viewpoints and perspectives. So this question at that top part that was asking about the sharing of locations and dealings and so forth, it's going to feel like that's being asked again later in the application. So copy and paste is our friend. All right, next part is majority owner information. So identify if your firm who's the 51% or more owner. And you're going to complete the name and title in this section. This is at the bottom of page 8. And so the additional part continues on page 9. This same questions that I'm going to go through from this slide in the next, I think it's the next 1 or 2 slides, are going to be the same questions for the owner or owners that are 49% or less in ownership as well. So I didn't include those in the application because it's going to be the same stuff, but just pay attention to the top where it's asking what that percentage is of owner. If there are 3 owners and you guys have equal percentage and all 3 of you are meet the eligibility requirements for the disadvantage program, you'll want to copy this majority owner page for the 51% and then just complete that, or the 49% and just complete that for all 3, or the multiple owners that are there. These pages can be copied and added in to accommodate for the percentage breakdown of how your business is established.
Hey, Melissa,
Yes.
got a follow-up question that says, is it plausible to say you work your personal job in a part-time capacity, given the fact that you work full-time at your day job?
So that's a great question as well. What happens is you need to, again, like it said in the beginning of the slides, it is your responsibility to prove you are eligible for this program based on the regulations that they have set forth. So I always say there are 24 hours in a day. And if you work your full-time job 8 hours, you can work your company 8 hours, and that's only 16. It still leaves time for rest, right? But it's your job to show that you are in full control and operating your company and your business. So if I call your company at 8 o'clock to ask you to come out on a project to bring a delivery, and you say I can't do so because I work my full-time job, then you're not in control of your business. So it's very important that you disclose everything on the application, but you are explaining it in a way that shows that you have met the eligibility requirements. So I hope that helps. I never tell a business because they work a full-time job somewhere else and they're, you should still be working your current company full-time in some way or some capacity. And it is your burden of proof to prove that through your application and making sure that you're completing and explaining that to the best of your ability. Anna, is there anything you want to add on that I've maybe missed, or is that an accurate response?
That was very accurate. Yes.
Thank you, dear. All right. So going back to the 51% ownership, this part here is also going to ask about your information. So where's your home address? They do need a physical address, no PO boxes on the application. Your gender and what group you fit within. So if you, meet one of these, you'll mark these here. If you're Caucasian, you'll mark other, or a different race that's not included, you'll mark other and write that in here. Your residence status, so which one applies here. The next one's the number of years you've owned your business. Again, if you just established it this year and you are not a full year, just put less than 1 year in that section. That way, as the months are kind of going on through the application, it's still going to still be applicable. And then if you have more than a year, or a year and 2 months or whatever, go ahead and just list that within the application as well. You'll put your percentage that you own of the business. your class of stock owned. So if you are not a corporation, you're not going to have stock if you're an LLC. So in that section, you put NA, the date acquired. So again, the date you acquired the business. This could be different than the date that the company was established, because if the company got established, let's say 5 years ago, and you just purchased it from someone 3 years ago, you've become the new owner as of 3 years ago, not the 5 years. So the date you acquired it. Over in the upper right, you're going to put how you acquired the company. What was the investments that you and your partners maybe have put in into the company? I usually recommend people to complete this last, because depending on when you established your company and when you're applying for certification, you need to go back and look to see what you would maybe have done if it wasn't documented in your bylaws or your corporate documents. So go back and make sure you look at all the cash that you put in. A good rule of thumb that I like to use is 6 months. So anything that you've invested in 6 months to getting the company started and going typically fits in with that investment of money. And then it's going to ask about transfers of assets. So anything outside of 6 months, I usually recommend people to put within the transfers of assets. If you don't get it exactly like correct between the two, it's okay. Just make sure all of the amounts are being included in one area or the other. So for example, if I just started the business, I opened up my bank account, put $500 in it. I paid to get the certification with the state. That was $200. I'm now in at $700. Let's say, 7 months later or 8 months later, I put $1,000 into the checking account for my personal money because the company needed some additional funds to sustain. Well, that $1,000 should be considered a transfer of assets. And then that $700 would be the money in the cash that I put in advance to get the business going. So again, within that, those first years, if you're off a little bit, that's fine. Just make sure everything is documented on where those funds are coming from and how everything got established. The real estate information would be listed here, how much you invested. This would be the equipment. So if you purchased a business that was closing and they had a bunch of equipment, all of those dollar amounts for what you purchased on that equipment would go here. If you went out and bought equipment yourself, tools, trucks, vehicles, whatever, that would also be listed in this equipment area. And then there's a section for other, for things that you may not know whether they account for as cash, real estate, or equipment. So you do want to have these completed thoroughly because it is in consideration of, how did you obtain this company? How did you get ownership? And what did you invest to get this started? The other part about this too is there's going to be a section where they're going to ask for the proof of documentation for such amounts that you're listing here. So if you put $1,000 in cash, but you don't have the bank receipt showing that you opened the business checking account and put $1,000 in it, then there's going to be additional questions asked or different documentation being requested. So make sure your documentation for support matches this here. Now, what happens if you lost a receipt and you don't have a receipt? Then you need to just write a letter saying that, I don't no longer can find the bank receipt, or it was so long ago when I first started the company that those bank records are not required to be kept, due to the tax law or whatever. So just make sure you have a letter explaining if you don't have something as well. The next section is describe how the majority owner acquired ownership from the firm. So you're going to mark here whether you started it yourself, received it as a gift, bought it, inherited it, or so forth. And you're also going to need to provide some documentation on how you received that as well in the next section. And then the bottom part is the additional ownership information. Describe family relationships to other owners and employees. So if anyone is related to you working within your company, or you are related to them, then you're going to describe that in this section here, that you are the owner and maybe your son works for you or your husband works for you as an employee, and this is how you guys are related. Next section's continuing on with that same 51% owner. So it's going to ask here, does this owner perform a management or supervisory function at any other business? And you're going to say yes or no. And then if it's a yes, you're going to describe or list the business and describe your title and function at that company. Does this owner work for any other firm that has a relationship with this firm? Again, that's asking about the ownership interest, shared office space, financial investments, equipment, leases, personnel sharing, and so forth. So you're going to answer yes and no or no. And then you're going to describe what that relationship looks like. It may be the same answer from the prior page. You may have to add additional information on this one as well. Next is, does this owner work for any other firm, nonprofit organization, or engage in any other activity more than 10 hours per week? Yes or no? And then you list that as well. So if you volunteer at your church for more than 10 hours per week, that's another activity that you do. You will want to share and list that information. If not, mark no. What is the personal net worth of the disadvantaged owner? I usually tell individuals to leave this blank as well until they complete the personal net worth document and then fill that number in on the application. Just don't forget to go back and fill this in before you submit it, but we'll talk about the personal net worth as well. Next question is asking about a trust for the benefit of the disadvantaged owner. So if a trust was established, you're going to mark yes and provide the copy of the trust. If not, it's a no. And then another question again, do any of your immediate family members, owners, directors, officers, managers, or employees own, manage, or have an association with another company? Yes or no? So again, this question is kind of similar to this one here, asking if you're that employee fitting in both, right? So you'll mark yes or no, and you're going to explain those relationships between the family members, owners, directors, officers, managers, employees.
Melissa, can you actually explain what they consider a immediate family member?
Yes. So, and I may miss a few, but your immediate family members would be your husband or spouse, children. And do parents count? That's a good question, Theo. Maybe
Yeah, parents and in-laws of like kind.
There you go. Go ahead and say it one more time, Theo. Repeat all of them just so everyone heard.
Okay. It'll be mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, aunt or uncle, and children. And it's the same with like kind with your in-laws. So if your wife's or your husband's family has a business, you would list that. It doesn't include first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, etc.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That's a great addition. All right. Control. So as I mentioned before, after this section of the application, this is the 51% owner. So the next pages are going to be for the 49% owner, and they're a repeat of what we just went over. But after that, then it goes into the control. So if your business is established where you are required to have officers and board of directors, this is where that would be completed. If you have a registered company that does not require those things, then obviously this section is going to be an NA for you. So if you are a sole proprietor, you do not have to have officers and board of directors. LLCs do not have to have officers. So depending on how your business is established, this is where you'll either fill this in of who those parties are, or you're going to put NA. You might be that person. So for example, I am the president officer of my company, and I'm also the owner of my company, right? And then I'm also one of the board of directors within the company. I sit on that as well. So with this, you would need to fill out those categories. So secretary, vice president, president, so forth, or you might have an NA or it's not applicable. You'll want to ensure you list the date that those people were appointed, their ethnicity, and their gender for each section. Then below, it's going to ask these questions pertinent to who these individuals were above. So if you do have different people, and there's going to be a lot, you will want to include an additional sheet of paper for the explanations within these sections here. So it's going to ask, do any of the persons listed above perform a management or supervisory function at another business? And it's yes or no. And then you're going to identify for each person. So here it's giving an option to identify for 2, but as you see here, there's slots for 8. So if it's all of them, then you're going to put an additional sheet of paper to explain each of those individuals. Don't just fill out because there's only 2 and then not disclose the rest. Make sure you add the additional paper. Do any of the businesses listed in section A above own or work for any other firm that has a relationship with this firm? Examples: ownership interest, shared office space, financial investments, equipment, lease, personnel sharing. So you might have a person working in both places. So think through that. And then your answer is either going to be yes or no. If it's yes, you're going to identify for each of those things and disclose it in a description. Do any of the persons listed in section A above own or work for any other firm that has a relationship with this firm? And then same thing. So yes or no. And if so, what's that firm name, the person, and then that relationship. Down below, I don't know if I've got this. Yeah, it does cut off on the next section. So the last question is duties of the owners, officers, directors, managers, and key personnel. You're going to complete this for all the owners who are responsible for the following functions. And then the next page is where it'll have that information as well. So the top section is control for officers and board of directors, but the bottom section is asking about owners, officers, directors, managers, and key personnel. Okay. So again, it feels repetitive, but they are different roles that they're asking about. This section here is going to ask about who is performing what duties and work. If your business, again, is not broken into just two owners at 51% and 49%, you will want to add another section for this, or make a copy of this to update maybe maybe there's 33%. So there should be 3 columns of who's doing this particular tasks here. So at the top, you'll have the name of the person, the title, and then that percentage of ownership as you break those down. And then this is going to ask who is always, frequently, seldom, or never doing a task here. So you're going to read each of these and you're going to think about the individuals listed as owners, and you're going to mark whether they're always, frequently, seldom, or never doing a task. There might be situations where one person always does something and another person does it seldomly. There might be situations where both people are always involved in doing it. Typically, you don't really want to have somebody never doing nothing. If you come across one and you guys haven't discussed it as owners, you might want to think about, okay, wait, we should figure this out. If we do have hiring and firing, who's going to be doing that, whose role and responsibility that will be. So this checklist is really good because it does look at the structure and operation of your business, and you can make sure that you guys are discussing this as joint owners of who's going to be taking care of these tasks and doing these things. But you will want to read those and mark each one accordingly of who's doing what. And then do any of the persons listed in B1 or 2 perform a management or supervisory function at any other business? If yes, identify that person, the business, and the title or function. So again, that's similar to the ownership question prior. And then next, do any of these persons listed above own or work for any other firm that has a relationship with this firm? And if yes, you're going to explain the nature of that as well. Inventory. So I like to do this one on a separate sheet of paper versus doing it on the application. So sometimes I tell businesses to just put C attached on this, and I'll explain to you why. So the equipment and vehicles are what get listed here. So your make and model, the current value, the ownership, whether it's leased by the firm or it's owned, was collateral used, or is this used for collateral, and then where this item is stored. The reason I like to have an additional sheet of paper is because on the checklist, when we go to look at it, it's also going to ask, when you have a vehicle listed, they're also going to want the VIN number, and they're going to want a copy of the bill of sale or the title for the vehicle showing who it's owned under, and also the insurance card for that vehicle. So I like to put it on an attachment so that all of this is just in one nice row, and then it shows that yes, there's the insurance card, yes, the bill of sale has been included, and the VIN numbers are all listed in that one area. You can list it here as well and just put the attachments of those documents when it's asking for the supplemental information. So whatever is best for you. But I like to kind of have everything easily accessible for the analyst to see it all kind of in one place. So those would be listed, and especially if you have a lot of equipment and a lot of vehicles, as you can see, there's room here for only so many. So if you're going to have the additional sheet of paper, it makes sense to just put it all together on one sheet of paper so that they're all together for them to evaluate and review. I don't know if they like it that way, but that's the way I've been recommending people to send it in. So I figured if they don't, they'll probably tell me to stop telling people to do that. So then next section is the office space. So again, write your information here for where the business is operating, whether it's leased or owned, and you can explain that there. If this is your personal residence, I do recommend, and you don't want the address published in the directory, the UCP directory, when they go to publish it, I usually recommend businesses to put this as the personal residence. Do not publish the address in the UCP on the application, but that would be filled out here in this section, and then the current value of the property or the lease. Then you also have your storage space that you would list here for your company if you guys do have anything being stored. You are going to provide the lease agreements for the storage space or the rental agreements for the storage space in the offices as well. So those will be attachments that are going to be asked later. Next question is, does your firm rely on any other firm for management or functions or employee payroll? Yes or no? Here's a section here for the banking information. They've got 3 slots here. So wherever your business accounts are, if you have multiple business accounts, you're going to want to put the bank, the location, and who is the check signer, authorized check signers for those accounts. You will want to list everyone in this section of who's able to sign on those particular accounts. If you only have one bank, fill the top one in, put NA and the others. The bonding and information. So if you have bonding capacity for your business, you're going to put those in this section. The next section is going to ask about all sources and amounts of money loaned to the firm. So here's where if you have a loan on the equipment, vehicles, somebody maybe gave you startup cash for capital to help grow the business for a while, whether these are loans from your mom, your dad, your cousin, a bank, a credit card, whatever, you're going to want to put in where those loans are, who's the guarantor on them, the amounts, the current balance, and the purpose that you took those loans out. If you have more than what's available here to fill out 5, attach an additional sheet of paper with the additional loans that you may have. We're getting closer to the end of the application here, so still hang in there with me, guys. Thanks for hanging on. Next, we're going to have list of contributions or transfers of assets to or from your firm to any of its owners or individuals over the past 2 years. So this is where I was talking about if your company's less than a year old and you're still working on the acquisition and acquiring amounts versus the transferring of asset amounts. That's going to depend on where you want to put those particular items, and we can help you with that through the supportive services and help you make sure they're in the correct spots. But let's say you transferred your vehicle or a car over to the company later, a year or 2 years after you've been established. That would be a consideration of an asset that's been transferred. If you pulled money out of the bank account from the business and gave it to yourself personally or to one of the other owners, not part of the payroll, that would be considered a transfer of assets from the company. So those are the things that are going to be listed in this section here. Your licenses and current permits from the owners and employees of the firm are going to be listed in this section, and you can attach an additional sheet if you'd like. This part's really important as well, because when you're asking for a NAICS code, those are the codes we had talked about for your work category code. The experience is important. They're not going to give you a code that you know nothing about. So I am not an engineer. So if I were to ask for that category, I would need to show that I have, education, skill, experience within the engineering field to have that on my, have that NAICS code. So these are those permits that they're going to look at to ensure you are qualified and eligible to work within a particular work category. So make sure, if your employee is the one with the trucking license and you don't have one, make sure that employee is listed here with their permit, showing that they have that trucking license. Okay. The bottom half is the list of the 3 largest contracts completed by your firm in the past 3 years. If your company just started and you don't have any contracts, you're just going to put NA in that section. If your company has only ever had 2 contracts, you're going to list 2 and put NA for the other slots. And then if you've had hundreds, go look back at them over the past 3 years and find out which 3 were the largest, and you're going to list that in this section. So put the name in the contract, where the project was located, the type of work you performed, and the total dollar on that contract. There are companies that sometimes have, they may not have a essential contract per se. Maybe it's one it's kind of a case on case basis, or it's just an open commitment that when, they're needing services, they always call you. So you're doing a particular amount of work. Just explain that. Just write those that information on in these sections to explain how that contract is being provided and how you're servicing it. And the next part is the list of the 3 largest active jobs your company is working on. So at the time we submit the application would be when we would complete and fill in this information. So that is what you'll put in that section. And then the additional information would be listed below. So again, if you need to explain those relationships or how those contracts are pending, that's where the explanation would go in this section. Then we have the airport concession. So if you are looking to do work in the or provide concessions or services and goods to the airport, that's where the AC DBE application part comes in at. So if you do not want that, just put NA at the top. And if you are looking to provide those services, then you're going to complete the information here. So does the applicant firm own or operate any off-airport locations, the type of business, the lease, and so forth. Does the applicant firm currently own or operate any airport concession locations? And then filling out those as they follow. Last page is the declaration of eligibility. So you are, this is also a similar form that you fill on an annual basis, stating and attesting that nothing has changed within your company, that you still are eligible to be a DBE firm. So you're going to put your full name printed at the top, your title, you're going to list the firm name, mark your classifications here, and then you're going to make sure you put the executed day and you're going to sign that. This document is one that they do need the original signature on, so you cannot send in a copy. They want the ink to paper on these particular documents. So if you make copies of this application before you send it in, just make sure you don't mail the copy in, you mail that original and you hang on to the copy. And then this is the supporting document checklist. This is the part that is the lengthier part of the application. I know I just spent, I don't even know, that was half an hour going through the 15-page part of the application. But this one is sometimes what takes the longer portion. And so I recommend that businesses break this up into 3 different categories. The first is things that they have to, and you can do it in the order that you have time, but break it into 3 different categories, which is 1, what do I have to create and work on creating it? What do I have to gather, go get or get copies of? And then the third one is what do I need to write letters for that I don't have? So typically in here, you're either going to maybe going to a bank to pick something up to have the copy, going to see your accountant to get the copy of your taxes. So that's the gathering section. Things you might need to create might be your resume. Maybe you haven't updated it in a while and it needs edited and typed. Maybe you've got to go create the equipment list and go pull the VIN numbers. That's a sheet that you're going to have to create. And then the third one would be, oh, I don't have this particular thing, so I need to write a letter stating that I did recognize that they asked for it, but I don't have it, and for what reason I don't have that item. I see there's a question. Thea, do you want to read that question out loud?
Yeah, sure. As the personal business grows and employees and officers, etc., are added, how do we update any changes to the business structure? How often should we update? How often should the update be made so that there are not every other day changes, i.e. monthly, quarterly? I can answer that one. What happens is this: whenever something changes within your business, whether ownership, telephone number, email address, or business location, you have 30 days to notify IDOT that change has been made. But certain things, if you buy new equipment, unless you're trying to get another work category, that's not necessary. If you hire someone, that's not necessary. But if you change your location, change ownership, change telephone, email address, you have 30 days to notify IDOT that those changes have been made, because IDOT will have the ability to decertify you if they find out something has been changed and you didn't notify them within those 30 days. And also, whenever you get your letter from IDOT, it will actually state that on the letter that you have 30 days to notify IDOT. And then it'll also let you know you have 30 days prior to your anniversary to submit information to IDOT that nothing has changed.
Thank you, Theo. So yes,
And I just, Melissa, if I can add one thing to this. When we say reaching out to IDOT to let them know of changes, when you submit your application to IDOT, you will be given an analyst who is the one who's going to be looking over your application, and that is going to be your contact person at IDOT when changes are made to your business and you need to reach out anything DBE related. Your first go-to will be your analyst that's assigned to you when they get your application.
thanks, Anna. So yes, it's your responsibility when any of those changes occur in your company that can affect your eligibility. So when we went over the eligibility part of the slides, if those things are happening, you want to make sure you notify within the 30 days. So that includes even your revenue. So when that big old check comes and you're past $56 million in revenue for that contract, don't forget to let IDOT know that your business has now exceeded the revenue requirement. So whatever changes in eligibility, it's always your responsibility to notify within 30 days. All right, so back to the supporting documentation. So hold on, let me go back. Oops, there we go. So I zoomed this up because I know this page is microscopic on your screens right now. So I zoomed it so you can see it in sections. But these are all of the documents that are going to need to go in your packet once you complete the application portion. So this is the supporting required document. So when I mentioned to you, if something is missing and they're asking for it, it's probably coming from this checklist that you didn't include an attachment. And that means your application is not complete until it's there. So definitely take the time to check all these little check marks and confirm that it's in your packet before you send it off. So the first one's going to be your resume. Don't use your old resume. Make sure you've updated your resume. Make sure it has your current company that you are now owner of listed on there. Because I've had people that still show that they're working somewhere else. They don't even list their company on their resume. So make sure that's listed. And then make sure also the categories that you're requesting for your NAICS code to be certified under, that your resume shows that you have experience and skills and understanding and knowledge of that work category within your resume, or the resumes that you are submitting in. So it asks for resumes of the owners, officers, and the key personnel of your company. So make sure that those are thoroughly explained in the resume. They're updated because that does help and support your NAICS code. Your personal net worth document, I will show you that document as well. So that also needs to be included for each socially and economically disadvantaged owner. You're going to put in the personal federal tax returns for the past 3 years. You don't need your state, just federal. And you do need to make sure all the schedules are included in that, or they will reach back out to you and it won't be complete. The federal tax returns are going to be needed for the past 5 years as well. Again, these two areas, so the personal tax return and the federal tax return. If there is a reason you don't have a return for a particular year, you need to write a letter explaining why you do not have that return. Maybe you just started the company and you're on extension for your tax return from 2023 and it's not yet been filed, or something like that. Explain that you send the copy in of the extension. I've had individuals that I work with that were incarcerated and they hadn't worked for some of those years and they were now back and starting their business and doing things. So we just listed that they did not have employment for those numbers of years, and they don't have a tax return to provide. But you do need to provide an explanation and sign that letter stating as to why you don't have a particular item that's being requested on this checklist. Next one's the documented proof of contributions used to acquire ownership. So that was the part of the application that asked about the cash, equipment, real estate that I said leave blank until you've made sure you gathered all of your documents and you've totaled them correctly to put those amounts on that part of those lines that are being corrected or requested. So that's the documented proof of contribution. So that's an item you'd have to go and gather. Sign loan and security agreements and bonding forms. Again, you need to make copies and include those. If you don't have them, we'd write a letter stating you don't have any of those things. List of equipment. So that's the one on the application where I said I like to just put it all on one paper because they want to have the VIN number, insurance card, copy of the title or proof of ownership, so the bill of sale. So all of that can go together. So if you list out all your equipment on the document and then put in there the additional copies of the titles, ownership, insurance card all together, it makes it very easy for them to confirm that they have everything that they need for each of your vehicles and the equipment. Titles, registration certificates, and US DOT numbers for the trucks that are owned by your firm. Again, that's going to be NA or a letter saying that you don't have them, or you're going to include the copies if you do. License renewal forms, permits, and hauling authority forms. I tell people to include their driver's license in there or their state ID in that part of the application as well if you don't have other licenses or permits. So there's that. Description of all the real estate, including your storage facilities that are owned, leased by your firm, and copies or proof of the ownership or signed leases. So that's going to need to be included. I have had individuals where they said, well, I operate my business out of my parents' garage. So I don't have an agreement with them and I don't really pay them. They just let me use it. Well, write the letter explaining that you operate out of your parents' garage and you don't have an agreement, you don't pay them anything. But you will need to include something with an explanation of the real estate agreements. Documented proof of any transfers of assets to and from the company. So you're going to have a copy of that. So let's say you take $1,000 out of the business and it's transferred to you as an owner, print out the bank receipt showing that, from the company, the $1,000 was taken out and given to, said owner. The DBA or DBE, ACBE, and certification denials or withdrawals. If you have applied for certification and received either the certification for those programs or received a denial letter or decertification, include a copy of those letters. If you've never applied, write a letter stating that you've never applied for certification before. Your bank authorization and signatory card. Now, some people get confused because they go to the bank and they don't get exactly what they're needing. The two documents that you are basically getting is one, when the account was open, the business account was open, and it's saying, here's who's authorized for the use of this account, the type of account, and all of that. And then the signatory card is the part that's showing who's authorized to sign for that account. So it might just be your signature. You may have put a spouse or someone else on there or as a backup, but they need the copy of that from the bank. Schedules of salaries paid to all officers, managers, owners, and directors of the firm. So if you have a accounting or bookkeeping software, you can pull this from that. If you don't and you want to type it out, you can type how salaries are being paid. I have quite a few business owners that I work with that don't pay themselves salaries because the company is not making enough revenue to do so, and they're investing those funds back into the company. So you would just write a letter stating that at this time there are no salaries being paid out to any of these individuals due to lack of revenue. And once revenue increases, then the schedule of salaries will then be determined. So you're going to want to list that. If you just pay yourself on occasion, a percentage or whatever, however those salaries are being paid out, you will want to describe that or provide copies. The list of all employees, job titles, and dates. You're going to want to get a document typed out listing all of those out, or print that out from your HR software. If you are the only employee doing it all, then you're going to print out a sheet of paper with one name on it and one title and one date. That'll be yourself. So you will want to include it though. And then proof of the warehouse, storage facility, ownership, or lease agreements. You'll require copies or a letter stating you don't have it. Now, the next sections are going to ask regarding different documents that would be needed based on how your company is established. So I do recommend to companies that if they are not sure what they need to be keeping legally for the entity that they've registered for their business, that they contact an attorney or reach out to the Secretary of State agency to ensure that they are operating their business correctly based on how it's been established. So if you are a partnership or joint venture, the application is going to require the original and any amended partnership or joint venture agreement. So that's probably just a document you and your partners have created to set up that partnership or the joint venture. So that would be included. If you are a corporation or a LLC, the first one, you're going to need the the official certificate of formation. So that comes from the Secretary of State, and the current operating agreement or shareholder agreements. There's a lot of companies that don't have operating agreements established. They didn't realize that they were supposed to be having one, but you will want that, and you do need that before you turn in your application. And it is a part of correctly operating your business in your firm. So please reference and look to make sure that you have that. If you are a corporation, your official articles of incorporation signed by the state, both sides of all corporate stock certificates and your firm's stock certificate ledger. So that's showing who has the ownership percentages and the certificates that they are given based for the stock. Minutes of stockholder, member, partner, and board of director meetings. So you do need to include your meetings. You should be having those on a continual basis if you are a corporation. The company bylaws, and then the amendments, and then the evidence of signature authority on the firm's bank account. So prior it asked for the signatory card and the bank resolution. That should suffice here as well. Just make sure you have them for all of the accounts that your company has. Additional documentation that may be asked is also on here. So the agency may request more from you, or the analyst might request more from you once you've submitted it. So please make sure you have these available. I do recommend to all firms to just go ahead and include your proof of citizenship or lawful permitted residence. Just put that in the application on that first one. But you may be asked to produce or provide your insurance agreements for each truck. Audited financial statements might be needed. The trust agreements might be asked, or if you're a supplier, they're going to want a list of the product lines. You do need to include this if you're a supplier, of the list of product lines that you have for distribution. So again, have those ready and available, because if you are asked, you do want to submit those as quick as you can to not to hold up your certification. The next form that is also included in your packet is what we call the work category form and work location form. So this lets the agency, when they're putting you in the UCP directory, also know what districts you are interested in performing work in. So the top half section has those various districts. There was a map included in the slides in the beginning of the presentation. So you're going to mark one or all of the districts that you will or are willing to work in. There may be primary ones that you are dead set that you want to work in, but I always tell individuals and companies that you have the right to say no or not take on a project in a particular district too. But if you don't express interest, the opportunity is not there for you either. So, if you prefer to maybe work in District 5 and 6, but, depending if business is slow, you have, employees that, have capacity to be in other places, and District 4 called you for a job, you would consider taking it. I definitely say mark it, don't exclude it, because otherwise the persons from District 4 will not reach out to you because they don't think you want to do business in that district. So mark all that are applicable that you would be willing to consider work in. Your construction services are the top part. So whatever you provide for a construction service, you will mark those particular categories here. If you need to put other because something's not listed, you can list it in that section. If you provide material services, this is the section of the various material services you'll mark. Miscellaneous services are here down below. And then the second page has the professional consultant services. So these are the categories. If you're marking these, pre-qualification would be required for these, unless it's noted that it's not. So here at the bottom, these do not require pre-qualification, but the ones that are listed here do. So you will want to make sure that if you check those boxes, you are pre-qualified. I'd mentioned the personal net worth document. So you do not want to use your own document. You will want to use a document that this particular document, when you're submitting your personal net worth, it is the U.S. Department of Transportation's personal net worth. If you've never completed a personal net worth before, it's kind of similar how I say to tax documents, where there's worksheets. You complete the worksheet and then you plug in the main sheet. So over to the left, and I know this is super, super small, probably for you to read, but you can at least kind of see the squares. On the left is the main worksheet per se. So it's where the totaled calculations are eventually going to be entered and go. So the top half is going to ask about your personal information, your address, name, and so forth, whether you're married or single, because if you are married, you only have to include half of those assets. So if you and your husband or spouse rather own a vehicle together, you're both titled on your personal vehicle, you'd only have to include half of that that value for the vehicle on your portion of the personal net worth. In this case, if you are the primary driver of that vehicle, then you would include that that's technically the vehicle that you have, and then your spouse has the other vehicle. So don't swap out that Maybach if you're the one driving it. That's the value you put in for your personal item. So on this application, the left side of these columns are basically the assets. So anything that you may own or have acquired that is an asset to you personally. The right-hand side are liabilities. So these are the things that are debts that you might have. So for example, an asset might be, like I mentioned, your car, or the cash value on your life insurance policy. These are all assets. Your liabilities, the things that you owe, you might have a credit card that has a balance on it that you owe on. So that would be considered a liability. When you add and subtract the difference between your assets and your liability, that's going to tell you what your personal net worth would be. So in each of these categories, you're going to list a total of assets, total of liabilities, and when those two are deducted or subtracted, the personal net worth is what would be listed. There are people that do have a negative personal net worth. You may not have a lot of assets, but you might have a lot of loans, debt, credit cards, and so forth. So it is possible for you to have a negative personal net worth because you owe more than you have in a sense. And then on the other side of it, you could have a positive personal net worth because you have more assets than you do debt. You just want to make sure that those your personal net worth is under 2,047,000 in order to be eligible for the program. If you are concerned and you think you might have a high personal net worth, I would suggest you complete this personal net worth form before you enter in going to the application. Because if you exceed the personal net worth, you're not going to be eligible for the program, and you don't need to waste your time, completing the full application. If you aren't concerned and you don't think you're anywhere near $2 million, then, usually I have people fill this out later after they do the other application, but the order doesn't matter as long as everything is turned in. So with this, there's worksheets. So there's worksheets pages 4 through 9. So I know, again, this might be hard to see, but each of these are broken out into sections. So this is worksheet 1, this is worksheet 2, and then down here is worksheet 3. You're going to complete the information that's being asked for these sections. So this first one, for example, is the cash. What do you have as CDs, savings account, checking account, cash under the mattress, whatever. That's all going to be listed in this section, and that's going to have a total. So this worksheet 1 total will then be transferred to page 1 of the personal net worth in this section 1 for cash assets. And then the same thing will be applicable for each of the other sections. So when you do worksheet 2, you'll fill it in on section 2 of the asset. Worksheet 3, you'll fill it out on 3 of the asset. So you will want to complete each of those worksheets, fill those in, and then transfer the information to the first page of the personal net worth. Again, supportive services can assist you and help you with this if you do need help. If you don't have anything, maybe you don't have cash, you don't have investments, you don't have any of this, then you're going to just put zeros in those sections because you don't have them, but just make sure you are disclosing them. And then the personal net worth will request you to have a declaration declaring that you are not perjuring yourself and you have put everything into the best of your knowledge and so forth. And you're going to sign and date that and include this document. So we're at the end. Thanks for hanging in with me. So just a couple helpful suggestions as you are completing your application. 1, don't leave any spaces blank. Make sure you complete everything in the application and put an NA if you do not have it. Include attachments for additional information. So make sure if you do need to explain something further, don't assume that the analyst can read your mind. Make sure you write letters to explain something if you feel that it needs to be explained further, so that they have that information available to them. Include letters for any reason on any information that you cannot provide. So if it's asking you for something, don't just not include it. Tell them why you don't have it. They're not going to know unless you let them know why you can't provide said document. Maybe, you've been in business, like I said, for 20 years and you don't have the receipt any longer. So just explain it. Label all your attachments. So section, letter, number. So when you are putting that supplemental document together with all of the checklist of items, I always recommend that you put them in the order in which it's asking for them. So it's just easy for the analyst to separate them in the way that they would go to review it. And they know, it's in order in that way, and that you're labeling kind of the letter that you're writing to explain whatever it is. Because if you don't put that I'm writing this letter to explain about my transfer of assets, they might assume that's the acquisition and how you acquired the business letter. So just make sure, you're kind of labeling it and explaining what your documents are for. Steps to complete: 1, complete the application. 2, begin getting the additional documents from that checklist together. 3, write any letters for any document that you have missing or something you can't provide. 4, I recommend go making all the copies and collecting all the things that you might need to put into the application. And then 5, work on the things you might have to create or develop. So you might take you a while to gather stuff to complete the personal net worth or your resume, things like that, to do the creation later. So I feel like this is the easiest way to kind of eat the elephant one bite at a time, because this is a lot of information that's being asked of you and there is a lot that's needed. So when I am providing supportive services to the firms to help with this is kind of how we break it out. We start with the application, then we start with collecting of the documentation and so forth. So that's the steps that I've found been the most easiest and have resulted in more success of actually getting an application from start to finish and having it submitted for evaluation. The other thing I say is to make copies or save all of the documents before you submit them. There is so many paper items that are being submitted and sent in. There are chances that things might get misplaced or lost, or you thought you put it in and you accidentally kept the copy and didn't give it to them. So make a copy of the entire packet. That way, if you are emailed and said, hey, this wasn't included or this wasn't missing, instead of going back and forth being like, I did send it to you, I know it was in the packet, you can just quickly grab it out of your packet, scan it in or whatever, and then send it to your analyst. Just make a copy of everything. Reply promptly. Again, it's based on a completed application, and then that's when that 90 days starts. So failure to timely submit the documents may result in a delay in the processing or even denial of your application. They're not going to let that application sit on their desk for a year and you haven't provided them what they've asked you that's been missing. So make sure you are responding back to them and you're very prompt in getting the documents to them so that they can get your application reviewed. And then last but not least, contact supportive services for assistance. We are here to help you. We've looked at these applications and helped businesses for many years, so we probably can help navigate you through it much quicker than you doing it on your own. And there's no charge for you to use our services, so we're happy to help you with that. We're going to skip work category expansion, but I do just want to say that if you submit your application and let's say right now you only have equipment to do seating and sodding, right? That might be the NAICS code that you request when you submit your initial application. And then let's say later you buy an excavator and you want to now add the category of excavation. You can do that at any time by requesting additional work categories, and we can help you, assist you with that. We will have a future presentation that talks about work category expansion, but just know that if you submit your application now and you do not have either the staff, the skill, the equipment for a particular category, don't request it now. We can always add it later once you have the documentation to request the additional work category. So we're going to skip through all of that. Helpful websites. I will send this entire presentation, so the work category slides will be in the presentation as well if you do want to look through them and read them on your own. Here are some helpful websites. Obviously, the North American Industry Classification website to find your NAICS codes, the links and information to learn about pre-qualification, the link to visit the UCP directory, and the IDOT website for you to use for additional resources. This is our IDOT Bureau team. This is kind of how the organization is structured on the Office of Workforce side of the company. So they've got the Small Business Enterprise, the Bureau of Construction, and then their Bureau of Design and Environment. This is the Certification Supportive Services Assistance. So again, if you do want help with your application, please make sure you screenshot this or take a picture. I'll follow up with providing it as well, but we are the ones, based on what district you're in, that would support you with completing your application. And last but not least, reminder again, TCTR, please save the date. I'd love to see all of you there. There is an upcoming networking event in the Decatur area on September 12th between 2 and 4 Central. Decatur is kind of central, located in central Illinois, if you aren't aware of where it is. But at Richland Community College, they will be hosting an event. It's in partnership with WCC, William Charles Construction, and IDOT. They're going to have networking opportunities there. So please, if you are able to attend, it is an in-person event. There is a QR code on the screen. You can scan that to register to attend that event. So if you are able, love to see you there as well. This again is that same bit.ly link that I had provided previous. When you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to Eventbrite. IDOT is keeping all of their events and on the Eventbrite link here. And I don't know if the Decatur event's on there yet, but just a heads up if you guys want to have that added. But once you get to the Eventbrite side, click follow. And when you follow, Eventbrite will email you and notify you as IDOT posts new networking events and new events and workshops within the area. This is the YouTube channel that we're going to have available. So the link that I'll send to you to get this recording is going to be from my playlist, because I can get that posted on there today or tomorrow, so that you can go ahead and watch this if you need it. But all of our content and videos are on the IDOT YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/@IllinoisDOT. When you're on there, if you click on the playlist, this is the supportive services consultant page. There is tons of content, videos, and educational videos on this channel that you can go and watch anytime you want. There's information about, your personal net worth and credit score, navigating the website, mobilization, and traffic control. So we've basically been recording all of the workshops that we presented over the past 2 years and have published them on this YouTube channel for you guys to have at your fingertips to watch whenever you would like. So please subscribe to the playlist and check it out. And then, like I said, today's video will also be posted there. Right now, there is going to be the old video, so make sure you pay attention to the date. We'll be removing the old certification workshop video and replacing it with this one today. And finally, but not least, a survey. So if you don't mind, scan the QR code on the screen and provide us feedback about this session. Let us know how we are doing. We do not get offended easily, so please be brutally honest on what we can do to improve the workshop. I know this is tons of information, and I tried to get through it respectfully within the time frame in which we had this scheduled. So definitely wanted to allow you opportunity for that. And then we will open up now for, I'm going to stop the recording real quick, and then hold on one second, and then I'll open up for anyone that would like to ask any additional questions. Just give me 1 second here. But thank you all for joining.